There's a deep and often confusing moment in the life of every chosen one, when everything around them begins to feel foreign, disconnected, and almost hollow. This is not a physical sickness or a mental breakdown, but a powerful spiritual symptom known as divine isolation. It is one of the clearest and strongest signs that someone is undergoing a true spiritual awakening, one that only the most powerful and deeply aligned chosen ones can experience. This symptom doesn't come with warning signs or a preparation. Manual it simply arrives like a silent visitor, breaking away your attachments, shifting your desires, and making you question every part of your life that once felt familiar. People you once trusted begin to drift. Conversations you once enjoyed suddenly feel meaningless, and the places that used to bring you comfort no longer feel like home. There's a sacred discomfort in this phase that feels both terrifying and necessary. You may start to feel like you're watching the world through a pane of glass, physically present but emotionally detached. You may wonder if something is wrong with you, or why no one else around you seems to feel this same strange emptiness. But this is not emptiness. This is space being cleared within you. This is the divine making room for transformation, and isolation is its first language. The reason this symptom hits chosen ones so hard is because they carry a purpose that is not rooted in the material world. While others may find satisfaction in surface-level interactions or distractions, chosen ones begin to crave something deeper, something eternal. The more they awaken, the more they begin to reject superficiality, manipulation, gossip, and drama. This rejection isn't always conscious. It happens almost automatically. You stop returning calls that drain your spirit. You begin to lose interest in environments that once felt exciting but now seem fake. Even your own inner voice becomes quieter, not because you're lost, but because something bigger is trying to speak through you. Divine isolation pulls you out of alignment with the world so that you can finally align with your soul. In this space of divine isolation, you begin to see truth more clearly. You see the intentions of people more sharply. You realize who only kept you close for convenience and who respected your spirit. Many chosen ones are shocked during this phase by the number of people who fall away without warning. It might feel like betrayal, but in truth, it is divine protection. Your elevation requires separation. It is spiritually dangerous to keep energy around you that isn't aligned with your missions. The higher you go, the lighter your load must become. That means certain friendships, relationships, and even family ties will be shaken loose, not because you stopped loving them, but because they are not meant to journey with you into your next dimension. This stage is not about loneliness, but solitude, and there's a difference. Loneliness is the absence of people. Solitude is the presence of self. Many powerful chosen ones find themselves retreating during this time. You'll begin to enjoy your own company more. You might spend hours in reflection, prayer, or stillness. You may begin to feel the presence of God or your higher self more vividly. Things that once felt like punishments, such as rejection or being misunderstood, begin to look more like protection and divine redirection. The world begins to slow down in your spirit, not because the world has changed, but because your internal frequency has risen above it. You are no longer operating in the same spiritual vibration as those around you, and that can feel incredibly isolating. But this disconnection is not a mistake. It is your confirmation. When you're being set apart, your soul can feel like it's in exile, but that exile is sacred. It gives you space to hear divine instructions clearly. It allows your energy to recalibrate without outside interference. It gives your spirit permission to heal, to shed, and to become. In this season, the silence can be deafening, but within that silence, clarity is born. You begin to understand that being chosen isn't about being liked. It's about being ready, and readiness requires solitude. Just like a seed must break open in the dark to grow, you too must crack open in your isolation to evolve into who you were destined to be. This is why divine isolation is not only a symptom, it is a spiritual strategy. For many, this phase lasts longer than expected. Time feels different when you are being spiritually refined. Days can feel like months, and weeks like years. But during this time, deep spiritual upgrades are taking place. Your intuition becomes sharper. Your spiritual gifts begin to awaken. You begin to receive insights and signs that never made sense before. You may find that your dreams become more vivid, your discernment more accurate, and your desire for truth more intense. This is all part of the awakening process. You are being emptied of the old you to make room for the divine version of you. One of the hardest parts of divine isolation is explaining it to others. Most people won't understand why you're withdrawing, why you're quieter, why you've changed. And the truth is they're not supposed to. This journey isn't a group activity. It is a solo calling with a divine purpose. You were never created to blend in. You were created to stand out, to lead, and to rise. And before you rise, you must go through the refining fire of isolation. It is not a punishment. It is preparation. It is not abandonment. It is alignment. Those who are truly chosen don't just survive isolation, they transform through it. They emerge wiser, stronger, more spiritually in tune than ever before. As a chosen one begins to experience a spiritual awakening, one of the most undeniable and overwhelming symptoms is a sudden surge in emotional sensitivity. This heightened emotional awareness is not a weakness or flaw. It is actually a sacred gift that becomes activated as your soul starts remembering its divine assignment. You start to feel things on a level that most people cannot comprehend. Joy becomes more radiant, pain becomes more intense, and every interaction seems to leave a deeper imprint on your spirit. It's as if the veil between the physical world and the spiritual realm becomes thinner, and your heart becomes a receiver for both earthly and divine signals. This level of sensitivity can be confusing at first, especially when you find yourself crying at things that never used to affect you, or when you suddenly feel emotionally drained after simply being in a crowded space. But these are not random experiences. They are direct indicators that your spiritual perception is being expanded. What once seemed like minor interactions now feel charged with energy. You may walk into a room and instantly sense the tension or peace without a single word being spoken. You begin to pick up on subtle shifts in people's tone, body language, and hidden emotions. You no longer just hear words, you feel intentions. This kind of sensitivity isn't always comfortable. In fact, it can be exhausting if you don't learn to protect your energy. As your spiritual awakening deepens, you become like a spiritual empath, feeling not just your own emotions, but absorbing the emotions of others around you. This makes you more compassionate, more intuitive, and more deeply connected to the divine frequency. But it also makes you more vulnerable to emotional overwhelm, especially in environments that lack peace or spiritual grounding. One of the most profound aspects of this emotional sensitivity is how deeply you begin to feel the spiritual warfare around you. You become aware of the battle between light and darkness, not just globally, but personally. You can feel when someone is battling unseen forces. You can sense when someone is speaking from their healed self, or their wounded self, or their wounded self. You may pull yourself randomly praying for others, weeping over situations that don't directly involve you, or being overcome with emotion during worship, meditation, or moments of stillness. This is not random. It is your spiritual radar being turned all the way up. God is tuning you into the frequency of heaven, and in doing so, He's also removing your tolerance for anything that does not align with that frequency. Because of this increased sensitivity, your relationship with the world starts to shift. You become more selective about what you watch, what you listen to, and who you surround yourself with. Violent or toxic content starts to disturb your spirit in ways it never did before. Conversations that are rooted in negativity or gossip start to repel you. You no longer want to be entertained by what grieves your spirit. This is all part of the refinement process. Your emotions are becoming a divine guidance system, steering you away from what no longer serves your purpose and toward what aligns with your higher calling. When a chosen one feels off emotionally, it's often a signal from the spirit that something is out of alignment. Your feelings are no longer just responses, they are messages, and you begin to read them with divine accuracy. This emotional depth also opens up an entirely new channel of communication with God. You begin to hear God not just in words, but in feelings. You feel His presence in silence. You feel His comfort in solitude. Your emotions become a sanctuary where divine truth is whispered. Sometimes God will break your heart for what breaks His. You may suddenly feel grief for humanity or pain, for someone else's suffering, or an overwhelming desire to heal the world around you. That is not your imagination. That is your spirit responding to divine instruction. You are being called into intercession, into compassion, into purpose. The emotions you feel are sacred. They are not random noise. They are divine assignments wrapped in sensitivity.